Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The 47th Border Fleet had been patrolling this sector for 3 years, without seeing anything more exciting than space debris. The Zeltharian Imperium controlled this part of the galaxy with an iron fist, and most species knew better than to challenge them. The Imperium had ruled for over 10,000 years. Their ships were beautiful works of art, with smooth curves that looked almost alive. Energy shields protected them from any attack, and their plasma weapons could melt through the strongest armor. Every civilized species in the galaxy used the same basic technology. It had worked perfectly for millennia. Kethver was thinking about requesting a transfer to a more active sector when his communications officer spoke up. "Admiral, we have an unknown contact crossing the border near Nexus Prime." Kethver turned away from the window. "Another smuggler?" "No, sir. This is different. The ship doesn't match anything in our database." The Admiral walked over to the tactical display. A three-dimensional image showed the border region, with a single red dot moving slowly through Imperial space. The ship was alone, which seemed odd. Most species traveled in groups for safety. "What does it look like?" Kethver asked. His tactical officer manipulated the controls, and the image zoomed in. The unknown ship appeared on screen, and several bridge officers made sounds of surprise. It was ugly. Where Imperial ships had smooth curves, this vessel was all angles and flat surfaces. Instead of the beautiful energy shields that surrounded proper warships, this thing was covered in thick metal plating. "It looks primitive," the tactical officer said. "Like something from the old archives." "Sir," the communications officer called out, "the vessel is transmitting a message. Let me hear it." The bridge speakers crackled with static. Then a voice spoke in broken Imperial standard. "This is the U.E.'s Indomitable. We come seeking diplomatic contact with your government. Please respond." Kethver laughed, and several of his officers joined in. One ship asking for diplomacy? Most species sent entire fleets when they wanted to negotiate with the Imperium. This had to be some kind of joke. UEs. The tactical officer wondered aloud. "What does that stand for?" "Probably some minor species that just discovered space travel," Kethver said. "Send a standard response. Tell them to submit to inspection or be destroyed." The communications officer sent the message. A few minutes later, the response came back. "We request permission to speak with someone in authority about establishing peaceful relations between our peoples." This made Kethver angry. The primitive ship was not taking his threat seriously. He studied the tactical display again. The vessel was moving deeper into Imperial space, ignoring his orders to stop. "What kind of weapons does it have?" he asked. The tactical officer ran a detailed scan. "This is strange, Admiral. I'm reading what appear to be kinetic weapons. Projectile cannons." "Projectile cannons?" Kethver couldn't believe it. "You mean they shoot metal bullets?" "That's what the scans show, sir." The entire bridge fell silent. No civilized species had used kinetic weapons for thousands of years. Energy weapons were so much more efficient. Projectiles were slow, clumsy, and easy to defend against. What kind of backward people would still use such primitive technology? "How many ships are in their fleet?" Kethver asked. "Just the one, sir." Kethver made his decision. "Send Squadron Leader Vexeth with 12 ships. Tell him to escort this primitive vessel to Detention Station 7. If they resist, destroy them." "Yes, sir." As his orders were transmitted, Kethver felt pleased with himself. This would be a simple operation. 12 modern Imperial warships against one primitive vessel with metal bullets. The aliens would probably surrender as soon as they saw the squadron approaching. Squadron Leader Vexed H received his orders with enthusiasm. He had been hoping for some action, and dealing with backward aliens would be perfect target practice for his crews. He selected his best ships and set course for the unknown vessel. All ships form standard approach formation. Vexed H ordered over the squadron frequency. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless the target resists. His 12 ships moved through space like a pack of hunters. Each vessel was 3 times the size of the primitive alien ship, with bright energy shields that shimmered like soap bubbles around their hulls. Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the alien ships approach on her tactical screen. She had not expected to encounter an established galactic civilization when she left Earth 6 months ago. Her mission was supposed to be a simple exploration and colonization survey of empty star systems. Captain, her communications officer said, "The lead ship is transmitting. Put it on speaker." A harsh alien voice filled the bridge. "Primitive vessel. You will follow us to Detention Station 7 for processing. Failure to comply will result in your destruction." Chun frowned. This was not how she had hoped first contact would go. "Open a channel." "Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Chun of the United Earthship Indomitable. We are on a peaceful mission and request to speak with your diplomatic representatives." The alien response was immediate and angry. "You will comply with our orders or be destroyed. This is your final warning." Chun looked at her tactical officer. "How many ships are out there?" 12, Captain. Each one is larger than us, and they're all showing some kind of energy shielding." Chun nodded slowly. Earth's military had taught her to always try diplomacy first, but also to be ready when diplomacy failed. She studied the alien formation on her screen. The ships were spread out in a pattern that would be perfect for energy weapon combat, but terrible for defending against kinetic attacks. "All stations, prepare for combat," she ordered. "Load tungsten rounds in all railguns. Prepare nuclear warheads for missile launch." Her weapons officer looked surprised. "Captain, are you sure?" "There are 12 of them. They don't know what they're dealing with," Chun replied. "These aliens have probably never fought anyone who uses kinetic weapons. Their energy shields won't stop our railguns." "Ma'am," her communications officer said, "the aliens are powering up their weapons." Chun made her final decision. "Open a channel to the alien squadron." When the channel opened, she spoke clearly. "This is Captain Chun. We are withdrawing from your space. Any attack on our vessel will be considered an act of war." The alien leader's response was full of contempt. "You dare threaten the Imperium? Destroy them." Bright beams of plasma energy lanced out from the alien ships, striking the Indomitable's hull. Chun felt the ship shake slightly, but the damage report showed minimal penetration. Earth's depleted uranium armor had been designed to survive nuclear weapons. Alien energy beams were barely scratching it. "Return fire," Chun ordered. The Indomitable's railgun spoke. The tungsten slugs left the Indomitable's railguns at 3% of light speed. Squadron leader Vexeth watched his tactical display with confusion as 12 small objects streaked toward his ships. The projectiles were moving faster than anything he had ever seen, but they were still just pieces of metal. His energy shields would deflect them easily. The first slug hit the lead, destroyed shields, and passed right through them like they weren't there. The tungsten projectile, moving at relativistic speed, punched through the ship's hull from nose to stern. The destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "What?" Vexth stared at his display in shock. "How did that penetrate our shields?" His tactical officer was equally confused. "Sir, the projectiles are solid matter, not energy. Our shields are designed to deflect plasma and laser weapons." Before Vexeth could respond, 2 more of his ships died. The human railgun slugs tore through their hulls like paper, causing massive internal explosions. In the space of 30 seconds, a quarter of his squadron was gone. "All ships, evasive action," Vexth ordered. "Return fire." The remaining Imperial ships scattered, firing their plasma weapons at the human vessel. The beam struck the ugly metal hull and barely left scorch marks. What kind of armor could resist concentrated plasma fire? On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Chun watched the alien ships break formation. Reload all railguns. Target the largest vessel. Her weapons officer worked quickly at his controls. Guns loaded, Captain. Targeting the enemy flagship. Fire. 3 more tungsten slugs raced across space. Vexith's ship tried to turn away, but the projectiles were too fast. 2 slugs missed, but the third struck his engine section. The impact sent shockwaves through the entire vessel, knocking crew members to the deck. Damage report. Vexed H shouted. Main engines are offline, his engineering officer replied. We have fires on 3 decks. The engine room is completely destroyed. Vexith couldn't believe what was happening. His squadron had been trained to fight other civilized species with energy weapons and shields. No one had prepared them for an enemy that used primitive kinetic weapons traveling at impossible speeds. Sir, his communications officer called out. Admiral Kethfer is demanding a status report. Tell him we're under attack by unknown weapons, Vexed H replied. Half my squadron is already destroyed. Back on the command ship, Admiral Kethfer listened to the report with growing anger. What do you mean half your squadron is destroyed? It's one primitive ship. Admiral, their weapons are unlike anything we've encountered. They're using high-velocity projectiles that pass right through our shields. Kethfer looked at his tactical display. The readings confirmed Vexith's report. 6 Imperial ships were gone, and the primitive vessel showed no damage at all. All ships in the system converge on the unknown vessel, Kethfer ordered. I want 50 ships surrounding that thing. His staff officer looked worried. Sir, perhaps we should contact the capital and request instructions. Instructions? Kethfer's voice was full of rage. Some backward species just destroyed half of Squadron 12 with metal bullets, and you want to ask for instructions. We will handle this ourselves. More Imperial ships began moving toward the battle zone. Captain Chun watched them approach on her long-range sensors. Captain, her tactical officer said, I count 47 more ships incoming. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Chun nodded. She had expected reinforcements. The aliens' pride had been hurt, and they would want revenge. Continue targeting the remaining ships from the first group, she ordered. We need to finish this fight before the reinforcements arrive. The Indomitable fired again. Another Imperial ship died, its hull split open by a tungsten slug moving at incredible speed. The remaining vessels in Vexith's squadron tried to retreat, but they were too slow. One by one, the human railguns picked them off. Squadron leader Vexith watched his last escort ship explode. He was alone now, his engines dead, floating helplessly in space. The human ship moved closer, its ugly metal hull scarred but intact. His communications officer spoke quietly. Sir, the alien vessel is transmitting. Put it through. Captain Chun's voice filled the bridge. Imperial vessel. This is Captain Chun. Your ships attacked us without provocation. We defended ourselves. Do you wish to continue this fight? Vex stared at the tactical display. 12 of the Imperium's finest warships had been destroyed in less than 10 minutes. His own vessel was crippled and helpless. The human ship had barely been scratched. How? He whispered. How did you defeat us so easily? Chun's response was calm and professional. Your weapons and shields are designed for fighting other energy-based technologies. You've never encountered kinetic warfare. We have. Kinetic warfare? Vexed H had never heard the term. Where we come from, using the kinetic energy of fast-moving objects to destroy targets is common. We've been doing it for thousands of years. Vexed has thought about this. His species had used energy weapons for so long that they had forgotten about primitive kinetic attacks. But these humans had perfected the art of throwing rocks, just at incredible speeds. "The reinforcements will destroy you," he said. "You may have surprised us, but Admiral Kethfer has 50 ships coming." "I know," Chun replied. "We're monitoring their approach." "Then you know you cannot win." There was a long pause before Chun answered. "Squadron leader, may I ask you something?" "What? In your military history, have you ever fought a species that uses nuclear weapons as standard ammunition?" Vexith felt a chill run down his spine. "Nuclear weapons? Those are planet killers. No civilized species would use them in normal combat. Where I come from, they're just another tool," Chun said simply. The Imperial reinforcements were getting closer. Admiral Kethfer led them personally in his flagship, the Bright Victory. It was one of the largest ships in the fleet, with shields that could deflect the combined fire of a dozen enemy vessels. "Tactical, what's the status of Squadron 12? Kethfer asked. "All ships destroyed or disabled, sir. The unknown vessel appears undamaged." Kethfer studied the human ship on his display. It looked even more primitive up close, like something built in a scrapyard. But it had just destroyed 12 Imperial warships without taking significant damage. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel." "Put it through." Captain Chun's voice was clear and calm. "Imperial Fleet. This is Captain Chun of the United Earthship Indomitable. Your ships attacked us without cause. We defended ourselves. We have no wish to fight you further, but we will if necessary." Kethfer laughed bitterly. "One ship against 50, and you threaten us?" "Admiral, we are not threatening you. We are warning you. Our weapons are designed to fight enemies that use nuclear fire. Your energy weapons cannot penetrate our armor, and your shields cannot stop our attacks. Please reconsider your approach. Nuclear fire?" Kethfer repeated the words with disbelief. "What kind of species fights with nuclear weapons?" Chun's answer made every officer on the Imperial bridge go silent, one that survived a planetary nuclear war. The human ship began moving away from the wreckage of Squadron 12, heading toward the incoming Imperial fleet. Admiral Kethfer watched it approach and felt something he had never experienced before in combat: fear. Admiral Kethfer stood in his command center, staring at the tactical display that showed the wreckage of Squadron 12. 50 Imperial warships surrounded one primitive alien vessel. But after hearing about nuclear weapons, he wasn't sure 50 would be enough. "Communications? Connect me to the capital immediately," he ordered. Minutes later, the face of Emperor Zakthar appeared on the main screen. The Emperor was ancient, even by Zeltharian standards, and had ruled the Imperium for over 2,000 years. "Admiral," the Emperor said, "explain to me how one primitive ship destroyed an entire squadron." "Your Imperial Majesty, these humans use kinetic weapons that pass through our energy shields. Their armor resists our plasma weapons, and they claim to use nuclear weapons as standard ammunition." The Emperor's expression darkened. "Nuclear weapons? In ship-to-ship combat?" "Yes, Your Majesty. They survived a planetary nuclear war on their homeworld." Emperor Zakthar was quiet for a long moment. Throughout the Imperium's history, nuclear weapons have been used only twice, both times to destroy entire worlds as examples to other species. The idea of using them in normal combat was unthinkable. "Admiral, I am declaring this a matter of Imperial honor," the Emperor finally said. "You will destroy this human ship. I am sending you the Eternal Glory and 2 full battle groups. The entire galaxy will watch as we crush these primitives." Kethfer felt his heart skip a beat. The Eternal Glory was the Emperor's personal dreadnought, larger than most space stations. 2 battle groups meant over 300 ships. It was enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. Your Majesty, with respect, perhaps we should attempt further diplomacy. No, the Emperor cut him off. These humans destroyed Imperial ships. They die. Make it spectacular. I want every species in the galaxy to see what happens when someone challenges us. The transmission ended. Kethver looked around his bridge at his officers' worried faces. They all understood what this meant. The Emperor had made it a matter of pride. There was no backing down now. Captain Chen watched the massive Imperial reinforcements arrive on her long-range sensors. Her tactical officer counted them carefully. 312 ships, Captain, including one vessel that's over 10 kilometers long. Chun nodded slowly. She had hoped the aliens would be reasonable after seeing what happened to their first squadron. Instead, they were escalating. She opened a communication channel to Earth's Expeditionary Command. "Priority Alpha transmission," she said. "First contact has gone badly. Require immediate reinforcement. Situation critical." The message would take months to reach Earth, and the response would take months to return. She was on her own against an empire that commanded hundreds of ships. Her communications officer spoke up. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the lead Imperial ship." "Put it through." Admiral Kethver's voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, you are guilty of destroying Imperial ships. Surrender immediately, and your crew will be given quick deaths." Chun considered her response carefully. These aliens clearly understood only force. Diplomacy had failed the moment they opened fire. "Admiral, this is Captain Chun. Your ships attacked us without warning or justification. We defended ourselves. We are prepared to leave your space peacefully. Unacceptable. You will surrender, or we will destroy you." Chun looked at her weapons officer. "How many nuclear missiles do we have?" 48 standard thermonuclear warheads, Captain, plus the special cluster munitions. The cluster munitions were experimental weapons that Earth's military had developed for fighting large enemy fleets. Each missile carried 12 nuclear warheads that could separate and detonate independently. They had never been tested in actual combat. "Load 8 cluster missiles," Chine ordered. "Program them for maximum spread." Her weapons officer's hands moved quickly over his controls. "Missiles loaded and programmed, Captain." Chun opened the communication channel again. "Admiral Kethvar, I'm going to give you one final warning. Our weapons are designed to fight enemies in large formations. Your fleet is positioned perfectly for our attack patterns. Withdraw your ships now." Kethvar's laughter echoed through the bridge. "You threaten 300 ships with nuclear missiles? Our shields will deflect them easily." "Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons," Chun replied. "Nuclear explosions create electromagnetic pulses that will overload your electronics. You've never fought an enemy that uses these weapons." "Enough talk," Kethver snapped. "All ships, attack formation. Destroy the human vessel." The massive Imperial fleet began moving into a standard energy weapon combat formation. Ships clustered together to provide overlapping shield coverage and concentrated firepower. It was a tactic that had worked for thousands of years against every enemy. They had faced. Captain Chun watched the alien formation take shape. "Perfect," she said quietly. "Fire cluster missiles." 8 missiles streaked away from the Indomitable toward the Imperial fleet. The aliens' point defense systems immediately began targeting them. Plasma beams and energy pulses destroyed 6 of the missiles before they reached the fleet, but 2 missiles got through. Each surviving missile split into 12 separate nuclear warheads just before entering the Imperial formation. 24 thermonuclear devices detonated simultaneously in the middle of the tightly packed enemy fleet. The electromagnetic Pulse from the explosions was devastating. Imperial ships, with their advanced electronics and energy-based systems, were never designed to handle such massive electrical interference. Across the fleet, systems failed in cascading failures. Shields collapsed. Weapons went offline. Navigation computers crashed. Admiral Kethfer watched his tactical display go dark as the EMP-wave hit his flagship. Emergency lighting kicked in as the ship's main power grid failed. "Damage report," he shouted. "All systems offline, sir." His engineering officer called back. "The electromagnetic pulse fried our primary computers. We're running on emergency power only." Around them, the pride of the Imperial fleet drifted helplessly in space. The nuclear explosions hadn't physically damaged most of the ships, but they had turned them into blind, helpless targets. Captain Chun studied her tactical display with satisfaction. Target the largest ships with railguns. Standard tungsten rounds. The Indomitable's weapons spoke again and again. Without their shields and electronic defenses, the Imperial ships were sitting ducks. Tungsten slugs moving at 3% of light speed tore through hull after hull. The massive dreadnought Eternal Glory, pride of the Imperial fleet, took 5 direct hits before its reactor exploded in a flash of light visible across the entire system in 30 minutes. It was over. 300 Imperial warships, either destroyed or drifting helplessly with dead electronics. The human ship moved through the wreckage, its weapons silent now. Admiral Kethfer floated in his escape pod, watching the human vessel approach. His flagship was gone. His fleet was gone. His career was over. But worse than that, his understanding of warfare had been completely shattered. The communication system in his pod crackled to life. "Admiral, this is Captain Chun. What do you want?" Kethfer asked bitterly. "To talk. Your ship has a medical bay. We're detecting life support failures on several of your vessels. We can provide assistance." Kethfer was confused. "You're offering to help us? After destroying our fleet?" "Admiral, we never wanted to fight you. Your ships attacked us. We defended ourselves. But we don't want unnecessary deaths." "I don't understand your species," Kethfer said. "You fight with the weapons of planetary destruction, then offer medical aid to your enemies." Chen's voice was quiet. "Where we come from, war is horrible, but it's sometimes necessary. When it's over, enemies can become friends if both sides are reasonable." Kethfer thought about this as he watched human shuttles moving between the disabled Imperial ships, rescuing survivors. What kind of species fought with nuclear fire, but showed mercy to the defeated? Emperor Zakthar received the battle report in his palace on the capital world. He read it 3 times before he could accept what had happened. One human ship had destroyed the entire 47th Border Fleet and the Eternal Glory battle group. His military advisors stood around him in stunned silence. Finally, the Emperor spoke. "Get me the Galactic Council. Emergency session. Maximum priority. Your Majesty?" his aide asked. "The Council hasn't met in 400 years. It's meeting now," the Emperor said grimly. "We have a problem that affects the entire galaxy." The aide hesitated. "What should we tell them?" Emperor Zakthar looked at the tactical recordings again. Watching Imperial ships die under human weapons that turned the laws of civilized warfare upside down. "Tell them we've encountered a species that fights wars the way gods destroy worlds," he said slowly. "And they're offering to be friends." Dr. Melina of the Crystalline Hegemony arrived at the battle site 3 days after the destruction of the Imperial fleet. Her research ship, the Deep Understanding, was equipped with the most advanced archaeological equipment in the galaxy. Her mission was simple. Figure out what kind of species humanity really was. "Begin scanning the wreckage," she ordered her team. "I want samples from the human ship's armor, analysis of their weapons, and complete data on their technology. Her assistant, Dr. Veltar, studied the tactical recordings that the Imperials had provided. Professor, the human weapons appear to be deliberately simple. Look at these railgun designs. They're extremely basic, but highly effective. Milena, watch the recordings of tungsten slugs tearing through Imperial shields. Simple doesn't mean primitive. Sometimes the best solutions are the most basic ones. The research team spent hours collecting debris from the destroyed Imperial ships and the few pieces of armor plating that had been blasted off the human vessel. What they found disturbed them deeply. Professor, one of her scientists called out, "You need to see this." Milena floated over to the analysis station. On the screen was a microscopic view of the human ship's armor plating. "What am I looking at?" she asked. "Isotopes that shouldn't exist in nature," the scientist explained. "These can only be created by massive nuclear exchanges, planetary-scale bombardment, and look at this." The image shifted to show other traces embedded in the metal. Atmospheric burn-off residue. Signs of ecological collapse. This armor was made from materials salvaged from a world that had been destroyed by nuclear war. Dr. Veltar joined them at the station. "How old are these isotopes?" "That's the disturbing part," the scientist replied. "Recent, within the last few hundred years. This species survived a planet-wide nuclear war." Milena felt a chill run through her crystalline structure. Every other spacefaring species in the galaxy had evolved past the nuclear age without destroying their homeworld. The idea of a species that had actually used these weapons on themselves was terrifying. "Continue the analysis," she ordered. "I need to know everything about these humans." Meanwhile, in the capital of the Hive Collectives, Queen Mind Zareth was processing reports from her intelligence drones. The Hive had monitored the battle between the humans and the Imperium, and the implications were troubling. Unlike other species, the Hive Collective shared all thoughts and experiences across their entire population. This gave them unique insights into alien psychology. But when they tried to understand human behavior, they found contradictions that hurt to think about. The humans fight with weapons designed to destroy planets, one drone mind reported, but they rescue their enemies after victory. They use nuclear fire as standard ammunition, added another, but they seek peaceful diplomatic contact. They survived their own nuclear war, said a third, but they appear stable and rational in their communications. Queen Mind Zareth struggled to process this information. How could a species be both peaceful and incredibly violent? How could they survive using planet-killing weapons on themselves? She opened a communication channel to the other major galactic powers. This situation required cooperation between species that normally competed with each other. Dr. Milena's research team had been working for 18 hours straight when they made their most disturbing discovery. Deep in the armor samples, they found traces of materials that made her question everything she thought she knew about warfare. "Professor," her chief scientist said quietly, "we found evidence of at least 12 different types of nuclear weapons in these samples. Fusion bombs, antimatter devices, cobalt bombs designed to poison entire continents." Milena stared at the data in horror. 12 different types? Why would any species develop so many ways to destroy their own world? "That's not the worst part," the scientist continued. "The isotopic dating shows these weapons were used against each other over a period of nearly 2 centuries. This wasn't one nuclear war. It was a series of nuclear wars." Dr. Veltar was examining the human ship's design specifications that they had reconstructed from the debris. "Professor, look at this. Everything about their technology is designed for easy repair and replacement. Their weapons are simple and reliable. Their armor is made from readily available materials." "So, this isn't the technology of a species that's afraid of war," Veltar explained. This is the technology of a species that expects war. They've designed their entire military doctrine around fighting prolonged conflicts against enemies with similar weapons. The implications hit Melina like a physical blow. They're not just survivors of nuclear war. They're experts at it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on Nexus Station, a neutral facility that orbited between the territories of the major powers. Representatives from every spacefaring civilization gathered to discuss what Emperor Zakthar was calling the human problem. Emperor Zakthar himself attended, something that hadn't happened in over 1,000 years. Queen Mind Zareth sent her finest diplomatic drones. The machine intelligence dispatched its most advanced logic cores. Even species that normally avoided galactic politics sent representatives. Dr. Melina presented her findings to the assembled delegates. The reaction was immediate and universal. Shock, fear, and disbelief. "You're telling us," said Ambassador Kreeth of the Peaceful Gardener Alliance, "that these humans fought nuclear wars against themselves for 200 years and somehow survived?" "Not just survived," Melina corrected. "They perfected it. Their entire military technology is based on lessons learned from fighting nuclear conflicts against their own kind." The machine intelligence's representative, a floating cube designated Logic Core Prime, processed this information for several microseconds before responding. This explains their tactical doctrine. They fight as if every engagement might escalate to planetary destruction, because in their experience, it often does. Emperor Zakthar leaned forward in his throne. "The question before us is simple. What do we do about them?" "Destroy them," said War Leader Thax of the Brutal Dominion. "They're too dangerous to be allowed to spread." "With what?" Queen Mind Zareth asked. "They just destroyed our largest fleet with one ship. And that ship sent a message to their homeworld before the battle. More are coming." Dr. Veltar stood up to address the council. "Honorable representatives, I've been studying the psychological profile we've built from their communications and behavior. These humans appear to be genuinely interested in peace." "Peace?" War Leader Thax laughed harshly. "From a species that uses nuclear weapons like we use energy cells?" "Yes," Veltar insisted. "Think about it logically. A species that has survived multiple nuclear wars on their own planet would understand better than anyone how destructive such conflicts can be. They've seen what happens when diplomacy fails completely." Logic Core Prime agreed. The human captain offered medical aid to surviving Imperial forces after the battle. This suggests they distinguish between necessary combat and unnecessary cruelty. Emperor Zakthar was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "Dr. Melina, in your professional opinion as a xenorchaeologist, are these humans conquerors or refugees?" Melina had been dreading this question. "Based on the evidence, Your Imperial Majesty, they appear to be refugees. Their ship carried colonization equipment and scientific instruments. Their homeworld shows signs of severe ecological damage from nuclear conflicts. They're not expanding. From a position of strength, they're fleeing from a dying world." The council chamber fell silent. The idea of a species so desperate they would cross the galaxy to find new homes, armed with weapons that could destroy planets, was more terrifying than any conqueror. "What happens?" asked Ambassador Kreeth. "Quietly, when desperate people with planet-killing weapons feel cornered." Queen Mind Zareth answered for all of them. "We find out if they learned anything from destroying their own world." The session was interrupted by an urgent message from the border regions. Long-range sensors had detected quantum signatures consistent with human faster-than-light travel. Multiple signatures. How many ships? Emperor Zakthar demanded. The communications officer checked his instruments twice before answering. 200 ships, Your Imperial Majesty. And they're escorting what appear to be colony vessels. The Galactic Council looked at each other in growing alarm. The humans weren't just coming back for their single ship. They were coming in force, with settlers and families and everything needed to establish permanent colonies. Dr. Milena spoke into the stunned silence. Honorable Council, we have a choice to make. We can treat these humans as enemies and fight a war against species that has perfected nuclear combat. Or we can treat them as refugees and see if we can coexist with neighbors who understand the true cost of war. Logic Core Prime calculated probabilities rapidly, estimated casualties for galactic-wide conflict with human forces. Unacceptable. Recommendation. Diplomatic solution. Emperor Zakthar stood up slowly. The old ruler looked tired and worried as he addressed the council. The humans will arrive in 6 days. Whatever we decide to do, we need to decide quickly, because I don't think any of us wants to find out what 200 human warships can do when they're protecting their families. Admiral Sarah Chun watched the massive human fleet emerge from hyperspace at the edge of the Imperial border. 200 warships arranged themselves in protective formations around 50 colony vessels filled with families, scientists, and everything needed to start new human settlements. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Hughes Defiance, which was 10 times larger than her original exploration ship, the Indomitable. Behind her, Captain Sarah Chun of the Indomitable served as her tactical advisor. The smaller ship had been repaired and upgraded, and was now part of the fleet. Long-range sensors are picking up massive alien fleets throughout this sector, reported Commander Martinez from the sensor station. It looks like every major power in the galaxy has ships here. Admiral Chun nodded. She had expected this. When Captain Chun's message had reached Earth 6 months ago, the response had been immediate and overwhelming. Humanity was not going to let their first diplomatic mission be destroyed by alien aggression. How many ships total? Admiral Chun asked. Over 3,000, ma'am. They've surrounded our position but are maintaining distance. Admiral Chun opened a communication channel on all frequencies. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Expeditionary Fleet. We have come to retrieve our diplomatic mission and establish peaceful relations with the civilizations of this galaxy. We will defend ourselves if attacked, but we prefer to talk. The response came not from one species, but from all of them simultaneously. Emperor Zatdar of the Zeltharian Imperium spoke first. Human fleet, this is Emperor Zatdar. The Galactic Council has convened to discuss your status. We request a diplomatic meeting. Admiral Chun was surprised. She had expected another battle, not a diplomatic invitation. I accept your invitation, Your Imperial Majesty. Where would you like to meet? Nexus Station is neutral territory. Will you accept safe passage for a small diplomatic vessel? Admiral Chun considered this carefully. I will bring one ship with a minimal escort. But understand, Emperor, if anything happens to our diplomatic party, my fleet will consider it an act of war. Understood, the Emperor replied. We guarantee your safety under the ancient laws of diplomatic immunity. 3 hours later, Admiral Chun's shuttle approached Nexus Station. The massive facility was surrounded by warships from every major galactic power. Human long-range sensors counted over 5,000 vessels, the largest gathering of military force in galactic history. Admiral, her pilot said nervously, we're really outnumbered. Numbers don't matter if no one wants to fight, Chun replied. And I'm beginning to think none of them want to test our weapons. Inside Nexus Station, the Galactic Council chamber had been modified to accommodate human physiology. Admiral Chun entered the vast hall to find representatives from dozens of species waiting for her. She was surprised to see that many of them looked worried rather than hostile. Emperor Zakthar stood as she entered. Admiral Chun, welcome to the Galactic Council. I believe you know why we're here. You want to know if humanity is a threat to galactic peace, Chun said directly. Yes, our scientists have analyzed the wreckage from our battles. They've discovered disturbing information about your species. Dr. Molina stepped forward, her crystalline form catching the light. Admiral, we know about the nuclear wars on Earth. We know your species has been fighting with planet-killing weapons for centuries. Admiral Chun's expression grew sad. Dr. Molina, I assume? Yes, we nearly destroyed our world. Multiple times. The scars will last for thousands of years. Yet you survived, said Queen Mind Zareth. How? Chun was quiet for a moment, remembering the history lessons every human child learned. We learned that no victory is worth destroying everything you're trying to protect. We learned that enemies can become allies if both sides are wise. And we learned that the strongest person is the one who knows when not to fight. Logic Core Prime processed this statement. Admiral, your fleet carries weapons capable of destroying planets. Why should we believe you will not use them? Because we've seen what happens when you do, Chan answered simply. My grandmother lived through the nuclear summer of 2089. My grandfather fought in the Cobalt Wars. Every human alive knows someone who suffered because we couldn't solve our problems peacefully. War leader, Thax leaned forward aggressively. Yet you brought those same weapons here. Yes, Chun admitted. Because we've also learned that sometimes peace can only be preserved by being strong enough to defend it. Would you respect us if we came here defenseless? Emperor Zakthar considered this. The human was right. In galactic politics, strength commanded respect. But their strength was terrifying. Dr. Veltar spoke up. Admiral, what do your people want from the galaxy? Room to grow, Chun replied. New worlds where our children can live without radiation sickness. Trading partners, friends. We're tired of being alone in the universe. And if we refuse? Asked Ambassador Kreeth. Chun's voice remained calm. Then we'll find empty systems to colonize and leave you alone. We didn't come here to conquer anyone. We came here because Earth is dying, and we need new homes. The council chamber fell silent. Everyone was processing the same uncomfortable truth. Humanity was not a conquering empire. They were refugees with the power of gods. Queen Mind, Zareth broke the silence. Admiral, what guarantees can you give that humans will not use nuclear weapons against civilian populations? The same guarantee any civilized species gives, Chan answered. Our word, backed by our actions. We've never used nuclear weapons against your people, even when vastly outnumbered. We only defended ourselves when attacked. Logic Core Prime ran probability calculations. Admiral, statistical analysis suggests that species which survive self-inflicted nuclear conflicts are either extremely wise or extremely lucky. Which category describes humanity? Chun smiled grimly. Both. We were lucky enough to survive our stupidity, and hopefully wise enough to learn from it. Emperor Zakthar looked around the chamber at the other representatives. He could see the same thought in all of their expressions. Humanity was too dangerous to fight, and too valuable to ignore. A species that understood nuclear warfare could be a powerful ally against external threats. Admiral, he said finally, the Council has a proposition for you. I'm listening. We offer humanity limited colonization rights in unclaimed systems, full diplomatic recognition, and trading agreements with all Council members. In exchange, we ask that you share your defensive technologies and agree to a mutual defense pact. Admiral Chun was surprised by the generous offer. You want us as allies? We want you as neighbors who might help us if something worse than humanity comes from the outer galaxy. Queen Mind Zareth explained honestly. Dr. Molina stepped forward. Admiral, our analysis shows that your species has developed technology specifically for defending against planet-killing weapons. In a galaxy where such weapons exist, that knowledge is invaluable. Chun looked around the chamber at dozens of alien faces. each representing civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They were offering humanity a place among them, not as conquerors, but as partners. "I accept your offer," she said, "with one addition." "What addition?" the Emperor asked. "Human space remains under human law, but we agreed to follow galactic conventions for war crimes and civilian protection. We will not use nuclear weapons against non-military targets, and we will consider any such attack by others as grounds for immediate response." The council members looked at each other nervously. The human was essentially offering to be the galaxy's nuclear guardians, protecting civilian populations from the ultimate weapons by threatening retaliation in kind. Logic Core Prime calculated the implications. "Admiral, you are proposing a doctrine of mutually assured destruction on a galactic scale." "It worked on Earth," Chun replied. "Once everyone understood that nuclear war meant everyone dies, we stopped fighting nuclear wars." Emperor Zakthar realized what the human was offering. A species that had survived their own nuclear conflicts would serve as a deterrent against others using such weapons. It was a brilliant solution to a problem that had worried galactic leaders for millennia. "The Galactic Council accepts your terms," he announced. "Welcome to galactic civilization, Admiral Chun." As the formal agreements were signed, Admiral Chun thought about the long journey from Earth's ravaged surface to this moment. Humanity had come to the stars as refugees, but they were being welcomed as partners. Outside the station, the massive fleets that had gathered for potential war began to disperse. Human colony ships moved toward their assigned systems, escorted by vessels from half a dozen species eager to establish good relations with their new neighbors. Captain Chun of the Indomitable, now serving as Admiral Chun's diplomatic officer, opened a communication channel to Earth. "Mission Control. This is Captain Chun. First contact complete. Humanity officially welcomed into galactic civilization. We're coming home." The response from Earth came hours later, broadcast on every frequency. "Well done, Captain. The children of Earth have found their place among the stars." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to adjust to its new reality. Human colonies were established in dead systems that other species had avoided. Human engineers began sharing techniques for radiation shielding and survival in hostile environments.